Namaste. Crispy. Bhagat Singh here. I was blogging earlier today, if you want to read about it and get some background info, www.rockstaryoga.us. So my blog was about the intention of paying attention to using intentional tension in the practice. So a lot of tense in there. And most of us would believe that we're using the practice to kind of relieve tension, to get rid of it in our lives. But I think for myself, and when I see this in students, the greatest use of the practice, the greatest application of the asana practice is when we use it not to escape from our life, but to fine tune our life or to course correct our life, to take a look, a measurement, a metric of where we're at in current time and space, to have the discernment of what we're working with. Where is the body? Where's the mentality? Where's the emotional body? Where's the spiritual body? How are these in relationship to the actual experience that's happening externally? How do we process that internally? And so the riff I'm on is just that the asana practice can be applied in many ways, but one of the beliefs I have, or the conceits I use as a teacher, is to intentionally use the asanas as a vessel for an experience. Or sometimes I've heard that the asana is the container and the yoga is the experience that happens inside that container, matching experience with breath. So however it works for you, in reality, if I just ask you to come to class and sit for a period of 45, 50 minutes and erect your spine, sit up nice and tall and breathe in and out and just observe your breath and watch how your mind wanders, many of us would not be up to this task. First, physically, the body's not prepared from our sitting, sedentary life, or the kind of activities we do. A lot of times compression in the hip area, not an openness or a wideness in the hip, not a base of a seat, not a spine that's elevated and activated, not a core that's engaged. And so primarily just sitting up for that long would be uncomfortable. So part of the asana practice is to open up some of the constricted areas of the body and to get the breath and the musculature really working so we can dive a little deeper into the actual physical experience. As I've often said, I think one of the misapplications of vinyasa or misunderstanding in the way that it's perceived, taken, and taught is that vinyasa is a really fast moving practice, one breath, one movement. And vinyasa, as we've said, literally just means to intelligently sequence, to arrange in an intelligent order so that you're achieving something in a great sequence. Every pose is both preparation for the pose that's upcoming and yet compensation for the pose that preceded. And this symphony or this mala going around is how we use the body to create those vessels for experience. So once the body's warmed up in the asana practice, it's not uncommon to ask to hold a particularly tense asana for a while. A lunge, something that's really physically engaging to the large muscle masses, perhaps a balanced posture that's really engaging both to muscle and skeletal structure, but also to the will, to the intellect, to the ego, and to sit in those postures a little deeper and see what arises. So this is where I would say we're intentionally creating some tension in the body. Holding a lunge in Warrior 1, Warrior 2 for a long time creates a lot of muscle activity. There's a lot of heat that's generated. There's a lot of physical sensation, gross and subtle. And there's a lot of mental things that come up. Where do you go in the practice? Do you begin to project against the teacher? Do you fight the practice? Do you grit down and bear it because you're going to survive this one too? You'll be the last one in the pose. Do you go down or break out of the pose the second the teacher's eye is off of you because, oh God, at least no one saw me? Do you have to hold it longer than your neighbor? Do you need your neighbor to give you permission to leave? So when you're in that space of tension, where are you? What's going on mentally? How are you relating to that moment? Can you actually just be in that moment and recognize, like, wow, there's an enormous amount of gross sensation in my quad. I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to really delve into just breathing onto that experience. Perhaps the inhale will help rush a little bit more oxygenated blood, give a little bit of release there. Perhaps the exhale is an opportunity to draw some of that energy away from the burning heat point, up and out of the core, and to dip in a little deeper. So I would tell you that I think we use the asana practice to create these moments of tension in our lives so that when we back out of that pose or when we release the pose, not only do you have a sensation of what it's like for tension and stress to leave the body, but you know what your triggers are. You know perhaps what happens. Common, get in the pose, set the teeth. Why? Not part of the skeletal system that instructs the arms or the core. Get in the pose, furrow the brow. Get that nasty look on the face. These are the beginnings of the symptoms of stress in our body when we're not processing it, but when we're actually ingesting it and moving it from place to place. So I would posit that the asana practice is a really great laboratory to go into and create this subtle level of tension intentionally, intensely, and then notice who you are. Observe how the process goes. Begin to work subtly with the process so that the breath can be a way to release some of the tension while it's being experienced. Know how, when you leave it, to let it go, to really let the resonance of the former thing dissipate, and to use the breath to refresh, to recharge, to reset. And maybe begin to see some of the triggers, how you will know in that external world off the mat when you're getting stressed out from how you get stressed out on the mat. So that's what I'm thinking about today. I'm back teaching regular again, Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And on Monday and Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at night. Austin Donation Yoga. Check it out. Check my website. Look on Facebook, and let's connect. Otherwise, give thanks and praise. Hang out. Have a good week. Namaste.